Have you heard about recent security attacks in IT industry? Do you know the majority of attacks start from the UI interface? Are you curious about how you can secure your application? Or in case you believe that there is nothing you can do from the front end in order to secure the web app, then in this case, this video is for you. Watch this video till the end. There are so many insights me and Akshay are going to share from our experiences working at Microsoft, Uber, Flipkart, Paytm, and many other startups. So before you move on, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends for major upcoming videos.
When it comes to security, it is very critical part of any application that you build. And you as a senior engineer or even a junior engineer should always know all the techniques to handle and tackle the security of your application. One important thing is, to work upon security, first of all, you should actually know what kind of threats your system have, right? We will be talking about what are different type of threats your system can have and what are the security measures that you should keep in mind. And all this information is very useful when it comes to building systems, keeping in mind that everything is safe from the user standpoint, and also that and then security should not be compromised without breaking the user experience. That is very important, right? You can obviously have too much security, but then your user experience can compromise. But then you have to put security in check in such a way that your security is also not compromised and the user experience is very smooth. So Chirag is with me right now, and we are going to discuss about what is our industry experience with all the security techniques. We are going to talk about some security techniques overview in general, right? We will discuss our experience. We will discuss how these security techniques are helpful in our interviews. Can you tell a little bit more about, right, what exactly is the importance of security, right? And any other examples if you'd like to give.
Yeah. So definitely, I would like to say from a very open-ended statement, which my mother used to say a lot of time. Earning is one part. Like you earn a lot of, you can create a wealth, but you have to safeguard that wealth, right? You earn 100 rupees and someone is stolen 80 rupees, boss, you are just making extra effort and you are going into the depth, right? So exactly that happens in the industry where not just limited to you have to think about nothing can be stolen, but are you following some guideline, because sometimes you get a huge penalty also, right? So
Bilkul.
there are many ways where you can lose the money. Like earning money is tough, but losing money is very easy. Either government will put some penalties, either your hacker will come and steal the information and the data and the money. So security is very important, and especially as you said, when people most of the time think that I'm a web developer, like why I need to even think about the security, someone will take care of the security on the server. That is okay, but there are some times where you should know what should be there in terms of the security parameters, so that if certain things are not following those guidelines, you can go and reach out to the people, say that boss, please fix this is something which can be you can say dangerous for our application. So now, with that, I think Akshay, we can talk about the overall things that we are going to learn in terms of the security. Like, what's the
Yes.
roadmap of this?
Yes. So, Chirag, you told a very good example that okay, we should also know how to keep our wealth safe, right? In terms of that, right? And and you rightly said that okay, many front-end developers think that security is not something which should be handled a lot in front-end. But let me tell you that most of the major attacks initiates on front-end, right? And that is the major source, which so see what is the connection between a front end and back end. So back end gives you some APIs, right, which are right, which can be modified, right? And back end is kind of like trusting our front end systems, right? And sending some malicious data from front end can just spoil everything inside our system. So front end security is as important as back end security. I'm not saying back end is less or more or something, but as a front end developer, you should definitely take care of a lot of things, right? Um, and if you talk about the roadmap or the things that we are going to see in security is, we will talk about in this upcoming videos. We will talk about right from putting your website over HTTPS, right? Right, starting from there, Then we will also talk about whenever you are inputting some data, right? Do you sanitize that data? What data is the user entering in that input box is very important. A lot of SQL injection attacks happen because of that, right? Nowadays, right, SQL injection is kind of gone. I don't know if I have not heard of any websites getting into SQL injection attacks these days. And one more thing, right? A lot of people code in React, but they don't know that JSX automatically takes care of this. When you use JSX, this input sanitization and all that stuff automatically is taken care of, right? So unless you put that dangerously set something, right, HTML into your code, right? Otherwise it's automatically set. Then we will also talk about, right, what is authorization, authentication in your application, right? Now your website is on HTTPS. Now you have validated all the input boxes, but then is your request authenticated? Is your request authorized, right? We can talk about security headers, right? So Chirag will mention more about the security headers later. But after that, once we have done authorization and authentication, we will also see that, okay, mostly the authorization and authentication happens through tokens. Most of the times, not every time, but most of the time it is through tokens. So where are you keeping those tokens? So you have to keep those tokens safe on front end, isn't it? It is not your responsibility, right? If somebody steals that token, then it is known as session hijacking, right? It's another threat. It's another security thing. So your token should be very much secure. And then when I talk about where to keep those tokens, then comes our local storage, session storage, cookies, and all that, right? Data, databases in front end, I would say, right? Those comes into play, and what is the expiry of each of them, and lot more security things over there, right? To how to just keep that token, when to invalidate it, when to validate it. If you're suppose logging your system out, so when you click on that logout, is it actually logged out or not, right? A lot of times the token is just kept in the browser, right? It is not logged out, right? Chirag, would you want to talk more about this or something I would have missed? Or maybe talk about cross-site scripting, right? I forgot to add
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, very, very important. Like Akshay, as you mentioned, many interesting points, many important security measure. I would like to highlight with one example, as you said, things start with the front end in terms of the security.
Yes.
It is
Yes.
very true. Like I can
Very true.
relate it with series like people who have watched the Money Heist kind of thing. The person who you send and inside you seems like this is a victim, but no, those are sometimes they themselves are a culprit basically,
Yes.
who play a very good role in terms of a victim. That exactly happens in case of your security when things get wrong from starting from the client, and most of the people underestimate those things, like, okay, what I can do. Even many people leave things just on or for the react you take care of, but people
Yes.
misunderstand few points, like output sanitization I can take care of, but input sanitization probably I won't take care of if someone entered some value and I took that value as it is to the database without actually
Exactly.
rendering in the JSX, right? There are many interesting things that comes in the picture. As you mentioned, cross-site scripting, huge. Like you may be thinking about lot of phishing attack happening, right? You the CSRF, like you can say the
Token.
security concern, token related. Like people get some mail, crazy offers, crazy bumper offer. You get this much voucher
Yes.
and whatnot. You ended up
You
and
won an
basically
iPhone.
doing.
You
You
won an
want an iPhone.
iPhone.
iPhone. This is the very much popular one, right? So you got an
Yes.
iPhone and eventually you land up, and then after sometimes you realize you have some messages sent to your friends on the Facebook or some different website where you are
Yes.
saying, boss, I did not send this. Somehow it actually sent it up. What happened internally? Is that something that you initiated basically ended up into?
And right, when we talk about security, right, one more misconception people have is that if the user is authenticated, why to, right, we can trust that. No. If suppose it is your, if the person is your paid user, even if your you have a paid user with you, right, or even the user is authenticated, still all the APIs that he might call, everything that he is doing on our front end systems, we need to make sure that that user is not able to mess up with your system, right? Even if he's paid or not, right, or a authorized user or not, he should not. And the other thing is, and it is not just that responsibility, we also have a responsibility to keep our users safe, right? Suppose some malicious user, so you always have to think from that lens that anybody who is coming onto your website can be a malicious user and can break your systems. And then you also have to think from that extreme perspective that any user who is coming up wants to feel safe when they come to your website. So if he is giving some data to you, that data, or we call it as PII, right? Personal identity information,
identity.
that should be very, very safely kept with us. And we need to keep some guidelines. We need to maintain some checks, right? I have seen a lot of people, right? Major problem. I'm not going to take the name of companies now, but I've seen a lot of companies, they just dump all the user data in their local storage. Come on, dude, you cannot, right? It, see now, and they have a reason also. They say that, okay, local storage mein hi to hai, right? It's in local storage. What's the bad thing about it? But no, you have to deal with all the data very carefully, right? Whenever you get some data, you should not put into, because see, first of all, you should understand how local storage, session storage, all these things work, right? So if you keep something in local storage, it does not go off, right? Unless you do it or the user does it manually, right? So security is a big thing when it comes, and you should have all this knowledge. And now, Chirag, maybe I think I have spoken enough about this, right? You would have already been convinced that, okay, yes, Akshay, this is very important for us. But now let us just talk a little bit about, Chirag, maybe about interviews or something, right? That
Yep.
is,
So
how important is these security concerns? Is it asked in interviews, or is it just when we are building some systems?
lot of time, like lot of interviews, especially when starting from very basic questions from the course, right? You have course, how that works, does it help in the security and whatnot. That is one of
Exactly.
the popular that we know. But before I jump into other question, I wanted to highlight one important thing which is very important for everyone. The person whom you trust the most is the most dangerous person, and that
Exactly.
happens exactly in the security. And that is the first rule that is taught when people actually dive into the security.
Yes.
The person or the session or the activity that you think, oh, this is my user, this is my family member, this is my relative, right? He's going to ditch you. Trust me, that is all. That is the from the real world experience. Also, you might have seen that many people could relate that. But coming back, coming back to other thing, like I can tell you, like one of the thing which is asked in interviews, which is related to PII, which is how do you handle your PII data basically? Is that critical? Can you put that PII data into log? I can tell you, I won't mention the company name. There was a company
Okay.
who was having the
Logs.
encrypted data into the database. Well and good.
Okay.
But they were dumping the username and password basically into their log. How horrible it is. Like one side you are saying that your database, your credentials are secure. On the other side, you have plain text basically stored in the log. So nowadays, like lot of like people who don't know about the GDPR, people who don't know about multiple such policies or the guidelines which have came. I think
Compliances.
compliances basically, senior folks at least should know about those basic guidelines. So there are other questions like related to what is this cross-site scripting, right? How you can basically, what are the things that you should consider when you do the input sanitization? When you're taking the input, first of all, from where all you can take the input, which is very important,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Forms, URLs, whatever you can think of. Then how you ensure that you are doing the right set of validation? What kind of validation probably you wanted to do, right? So considering there are different kind of data that may be having, you may be thinking just from a very simple perspective, oh, I will get a JavaScript into that, and someone was having SQL, or someone was having a XML hijack kind of thing, right? You never thought about. So there are many such things basically that comes. And one of the popular, which I will always say, if you're a front end developer and if you don't know about what to keep in which is web storage, you're screwed up. I've seen people blindly using local
Yes.
storage in order to put
For
your
random
authorization
things.
token. For
Yes.
authorization token,
You
right?
should never do that. Yes. And
So
always, whenever we're dealing with tokens, you should have expiry set in, right? You should exactly know when this will expire, right? Even on server, even on client, right? Can it be shared? Everything you should know. Right? Good point, Chirag. Yes, you can continue. Yes, I just.
yeah, especially the authorization. Many people have authentication at their right place, For authorization, most of the time it works because there are two different system altogether. One is internal
True.
system who's taking care of admin panel and whatnot. Nowadays, especially the startup culture is something you don't have the private network in order to manage the admin panel. They have
True.
one single public dashboard where the admins are also getting and using the dashboard and normal
True.
users, anonymous user are accessing. How do you ensure that you don't do such mistakes? Don't
Exactly.
do these
Some things are
leakage.
not leaked, right? Basically, whenever you are giving an access to a user, and then there are different roles, right? You are not leaking things up, right? To a lower role, right?
Yeah.
Suppose if you want to give access to just the analytics, but you are also giving indirect access to something else, right? So you also have to take care of that. But again, right? And to be very honest, right? It's not just everything you can do with front end. You also need to be in sync with backend, and never feel that if you are a front end engineer, then you should not have a say on what backend does, right? You always have to comply with it. You always, as an engineer, have to take care of security, be it on front end, back end, or whatever. Your system overall should be secure. Nobody
Yeah.
should be able to mess up. This you'll have to always keep in mind. So if I have to give you my interview experience, right, Chirag, let me tell you about one interview experience. So I went to an interview. It was with a company known as Zeta, right? A
Hmm.
direct eye company.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was giving an interview, and then that interviewer literally grilled me on this input sanitization thing, right? I mean, uh, so he asked me to do a machine coding problem, right? I was just coding a small thing. I don't remember exactly what the question was, but I do remember that he really grilled me on that thing. Because I was not validating any input, and I was just directly hitting those APIs, right? So always do those kind of validations, and it is a must-have thing, right? When it comes to that thing, and then because I was bad at input validations, he also asked me a lot about when to use session storage, when to use cookies, when to use what, right? To handle all of that. So it was a good thing. And talking from a high level perspective, when you are a senior engineer, whenever you are asked any system design question in your interview, you should definitely touch upon or spend 5 minutes. Just like I told in last module, right? You should spend 5 minutes on talking about what communication techniques you would use. Similarly, you should also talk 5 minutes about security. How would you make a system secure? When even when the interviewer is not asking you, still you can talk about security, because when you talk about security, it builds trust, right? It will prove your point better, and it will impress the interviewer if you talk about security, because this is something which many people don't talk about in interviews. I have seen. First thing, don't just wait for the interviewer to ask you all these things. Always talk about it, right? Why not? Because you know it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Anything you would like to add, Chirag?
First mover advantage. Like if you talk
First
about the
mover.
security in the interview, then interview is like, okay, you are a person who think
Uh,
about security, next level person.
exactly.
Okay, let
Because
me hear you out.
most of the times I've seen that, okay, people just don't talk about security, right? But I feel
Yeah,
that giving it importance is, the people generally, when they are building systems, they think that, okay, uh, making things working is the best thing, right? But it's not just making things work, right? Everyone can make things work, but it's
yeah.
about keeping things sane, right? Keeping things intact when it comes to security is also a big challenge and a responsibility of a great engineer, right? So,
True.
talk about security a lot, and not just in your interviews, also in your teams when you are working in your workplace with your juniors, so that the whole industry evolves when it comes to security. Because I've seen very much broken systems out there.
Especially if there is your system
Yeah.
design which is related to finance, anything which is related to the finance or
Yes.
critical
Yes.
data, no one is expecting you to basically, they are not going to talk about, oh, tell me about the security. You have to think about, oh, we are talking about something critical. Security will has
Yes.
to come, right, by default.
Yes.
And you have to chip in related to the security. That is very important, as Akshay
Mhm.
said.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, cool. So I think we have touched upon a lot of things, Chirag. Right, in coming lectures, in coming videos, uh, Chirag will dive deep into a lot more topics. Each one of the keywords that you heard, right? Maybe authorization, authentication, road-based access, or cross-site scripting, or other attacks. So please take a notebook and a pen with you. Always take down notes. Keep it handy. learn things up, right? Chirag will also show you good examples where all these things are handled, right? We will also talk about how these things individually are taken care of if the interviewer asks you. A lot of exciting things is coming up. So all the best for that and keep watching us.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to highlight before the people goes to really show
Uh-huh.
the importance of basically security. As
Yes.
Akshay said, you have to grill down and make the notes very important.
Yes.
Few examples I wanted to cite from my industry experience, which really will make impact.
Uh-huh.
I was
Uh-huh.
working with Mo Engage. There was a contract that has to be done with the bank. There was an entire scrutiny happened for our system in order to check the security, starting from your
Yes.
XSS attack to the GDPR compliances to the other kind of thing. And once all the things were set up, then we got those contracts. So your business is going to impact it if you're going to have those good deals. Second, if
True.
I talk about Flipkart, like we were having payment gateway integration, and in that
Yes.
our entire security team of payment gateway did a scrutiny of our system, starting from our log to the client side handling to the
You are right.
cookies using the secure things and whatnot. To the Microsoft, if I talk about the current system where user is injecting its own script and whatnot, user is saying this is my website and this is the script I wanted to load. Security team says no. Even it is the user data, it's your responsibility that you take care of the security concerns of that. So you can think of the level that you have to go, right? And it is very important. In all of a sudden, your manager will say, your business will say, this has to be done. And then you say, security. I never thought about security in my entire development cycle, right?
You know, Chirag, when you're talking about this, right, I also realized that one cool thing I observed was, while I was in college, there was a website, right? Uh, I don't remember the name of I think it was some website where you can upload your image, right? So basically, it was what website? It was a new social. It was not Orkut, I remember. It was some social media, right? It was not that popular. So there you go and upload your profile picture, right? There was an option to upload a profile picture. And what happened was, we realized that when I click on that upload profile picture, you can upload anything over there. So what we did, we just uploaded movies and then we can get the link and then share it with anyone. So whatever is being uploaded, you can upload literally anything of any size, of any format, of any file type. So we basically uploaded movies and it was acting as a storage bucket for us. Right? Those
People know how to create the hack out of any security glitch. It may be
Yes.
not the data breach. It is your
Exactly.
data storage consumption, basically, right? For a different purpose. So next level
Exactly,
stuff.
right? I can just load that up, right? I can just put anything and share anything, right? You know how much storage costs, right? So
Yeah.
you just can't rely on right users to be uploading just photographs, right? They can do anything, right? If you allow them. So that is what I'm saying. Always have that lens that okay, whatever code I'm writing can be threatful, right? Somebody can play with it. Somebody can mess that up at any level. And
Yeah.
as you already said, right, that payment gateway team just checked all the code and everything in Flipkart. Similarly, in Uber, I remember we were about to go to IPO, and there was a whole months activity. It took months. There was so much audits happening over there, right? And right, it was huge, right? We were like all in to check what are the leaks in our systems, and it was a very big audit trail which happened that time, right? So
And being
it's
senior, you
very
can't say
important.
that I don't know. Being senior, you
You
can't say
can't.
at that time, this security is something I have never done in my career.
There was
You
a
hire someone
yes,
else.
and there was an audit firm who used to create Jira tickets for us, and we have to answer why we are doing this. They
Yeah.
literally reviewed our code, right? So it is very very important as a developer. And if you will talk more about this in your company, in interviews, you will always be appreciated as an engineer. And why not do that, right? Anything you would
Yeah.
like to add, Chirag, before
Two
we wind
last
up?
thing I wanted to add. One is, please, after watching this, all the episode of this, try and go check out your own application where all you can find out the security bugs. Please go and fix it. That is one. Second, start asking the right question in interview related to the security if you really care about your business, your user, and the data. We have recently launched the Namaste Frontend System Design course, which covers the every aspect of system design.
from the fundamental to the advanced, the LLD and HLD. This video was just an introductory video. If you're interested, please go and check out the course description in the description link given below. So don't forget to like, subscribe and share with your friend, and see you in the upcoming awesome video.